This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Welcome to Joy News Prime with me, Emefa Apawu. Our headlines: unanimous reactions from various quarters about President Akufo-Addo's address to the nation on the current economic crisis.
I felt like it was a below par speech for the president. And
But the government is confident measures announced will turn around the fortunes of the economy.
Despite the fact that not everybody is excited about the president's decisions currently, in the end, as we observe and as we implement these measures, we will come to a certain understanding that he has led us the right way.
Also coming up, your rent is 600 cedis a month, but your monthly allowance is 559 cedis. Not forgetting transportation, food, water and electricity. How do you survive? We hear from the National Service personnel.
In the allowance, we plead that maybe there should be an increment.
Things are getting more pricey. Even just getting here, the transportation was quite a lot as compared to previously. So I think an increment would be good.
We have details of that. Also, the heavens can come down. The whole parliament will vote. On Ajwasafo, Speaker of Parliament, defends his decision to forward the Privileges Committee report to the plenary for a vote.
If you've had access to read the report, you understand the basis of my ruling. You know, representation is so key to democratic governance, to be left to the subjective decision of any individual or group of people.
We have details as he gives the strongest indication that Parliament will pass the anti-gay bill before the 2024 elections.
The sexual rights and human values bill that is being handled by the committee definitely will pass it before the next election. We'll pass it.
Also, prices of both fruit and fried yam shoot up in response to hikes in cooking oil prices.
A gallon of oil is now sold at 1,000 Ghana cedis, but the ingredients for both fruits is less than 1,000 cedis. So we realized we had to put a halt to making both fruits.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's dig in now. And government says it is taking steps to protect the investment of citizens as it pushes for a deal with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. President Akufo-Addo expressed confidence in his negotiators to see through a bailout that will prevent the loss of funds of persons and institutions that have invested in various public funds.
An anonymous 2-minute audio message on a WhatsApp platform predicting a so-called haircut on government bonds sent all of us into banks and forex bureaus to dump our CDs. And before we knew it, the CD had depreciated even further. All of us can play a part in helping to strengthen the CD by having confidence in the currency and avoiding speculation. Let us keep our CD as the good store of value it is. To those who make it a habit of publishing falsehoods, which result in panic in the system, I say to them that the relevant state agencies will act against such persons. I also want to assure all Ghanaians that no individual or institutional investor, including pension funds, in government treasury bills or instruments, will lose their money as a result of our ongoing IMF negotiations. There will be no haircuts. So I urge all of you to ignore the false rumors. Just as in the banking sector cleanup, government ensured that the 4.6 million depositors affected by the exercise did not lose their deposits.
So that's the big assurance there that's been given. This comes on the back of projections from financial analysts, which have painted a rather gloomy picture for investors amid talks around the deal. Ghana is currently at the doors of the IMF for a possible $3 billion bailout amid intensifying hardship, skyrocketing fuel prices, a rising cost of living, and a depreciating cedi. Well, Kofi, AJ, data analyst with our research desk, joins me in studio. We'll take a look at that big assurance and the feasibility of this particular assurance. But first, this issue about haircut. How low a cut? What really is the haircut? Let's go through the education.
Well, Emefa, no haircut, but what really is a haircut? And I want to create this scenario for us to really analyze so that the person watching us at home will really understand this. So it simply means that I'll come to you, Emefa, and say, Emefa, I am really broke. I want to buy a new bicycle and I need, let's say, 1,000 cedis. If you lend me 1,000 cedis by the end of 2023, I'll give you 1,000 cedis and I'll give you additional 15%. Then you give me this, 1,000 cedis, anticipating that I'll pay, and I'll also give you a 15% as interest.
Okay.
And I'll come to you, somewhere April 2023, and I'll tell the Emefa, I am broke. I am not sure I'll be able to pay your 1,000 cedis. So let's have an arrangement. And the arrangement is that let's have some haircuts. It means that the 1,000 cedis that I'm supposed to give you as a principal, can you agree that I'll be bankrupt? So can I give you 800 cedis? And then also cut your interest maybe to 5% from the 15%. And because if I become bankrupt, I will not be able to pay the entire 1,000 cedis, and 800 cedis will be better off. You probably will agree that 800 cedis will be, ideal. That's just a haircut in terms of what we are talking about here. But let's look at Ghana as a country. Why is it so important for us to have this conversation? If you look at this beautiful table showing not a very favorable figure for us as a country, the total debt stock in $billion around 53.2 billion. And if you look at external components alone, it's around 52.6, and domestic components 47.4%. Now, I want us to look at this sheet. We gleaned this information from the Ministry of Finance, their annual debt report for 2021. So if we say there's going to be a haircut, and if there is a haircut, who are those going to really suffer from this action? So we look at this data sheet. And, we have different bonds that we float around. We have the ESLA bonds, the Dachi bonds. Let's just first look at the ESLA bonds.
Okay.
So if you look at the ESLA bonds from 2020 and 2021, the figures are in million Ghana cedis. And if you see 1,000, it means it's in billion. So if you look at domestic sector, the domestic sector in 2017 was holding about 7.6 billion Ghana cedis of the domestic debt that was purchased. The percentage was 99.9. If you look at 2021, this number now rises from 7.6 to now 8.7 billion Ghana cedis. And if you look at banks having their bonds with the government of Ghana, banking sector, deposit money banks, it's around 3 billion. Bank of Ghana doesn't have anything as of 2021 with, as far as bonds are concerned. Non-bank sector, rural banks, and then for rural banks, they really struggle for capital. They have about, 0.2% of their funds with government as, investment in terms of bonds. Now, if you look at those who are also holding the Dachi bonds, Dachi bonds, the same thing. Foreigners are holding about, 2.5 billion Ghana cedis of our Dachi bonds, and domestic, 2.5 billion cedis, and then banking sector having about 1.2 billion over there. So it tells you that majority of the funds that these banks collect, when they are attracted by nice interest rate, they really want to buy bonds, and then they have the bonds with government, and they're anticipating that government will pay them back. And so I'm not sure they will be happy if there's a haircut just because of an IMF program.
But how about most of us who hold T-bills?
Well, T-bill, the same thing, because you buy a T-bill as an individual, you buy it with the bank. And the bank will also go ahead to also go and buy also a T-bill from government. So if your bank is affected, probably definitely you also be affected as an individual.
And that's the big assurance we are getting from the president last night, that no haircut. But how feasible would that be once we are going to the IMF for a bailout? Let's bring in Professor Godfred Bokping. He's an economist, knows all about these negotiations, joins us via phone. We're grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime, Professor Godfred Bokping. So please, simply tell us, is it possible to get this particular IMF deal when we know that we are supposed to do debt restructuring, the debt sustainability analysis? Can we do all this without a haircut?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your cherished viewers. That's an interesting question, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's more or less like the take home from the president's speech yesterday or address. So what is known and what the data tells us is that our debt is unsustainable. Now, IMF doesn't lend to a country with debt unsustainability. And therefore, if your debt level is judged to be unsustainable, you go through the debt sustainability analysis. They have a number of indicators. Some of them are a bit more forward-looking. Some are also a bit conservative. The conclusion that we have is that our debt is unsustainable. The DSA itself, the debt sustainability analysis itself, will point to a certain direction in terms of how do you restore debt sustainability, but then over a certain period. What period? Let's say over 4 years. If we are saying over 4 years, the IMF will be interested in the fact that by the time you exit the program, you have attained debt sustainability, or so close to it. So if you look at 3 years or 4 years, that would then tell you the level of adjustment that you have to make to apply to the current situation in order to reach a debt sustainability, let's say in 4 years. Now, let's go back to what the president told us yesterday. Let's forget about the statement, the categorical statement that there will be no haircut. I believe that the president gave himself up by providing further and better particulars. Where is that coming from? Then the president told us that they are looking at bringing our debt to GDP ratio from where it is now to about 55% by 2028. The framework then, the time span is 6 years. Hello?
I'm with you.
Yeah, the time span is 6 years. They are also looking at, in terms of the external debt servicing obligation, they are looking at bringing it down to about 18% or so, probably below policy dependency threshold. Right. Currently, it's more than 30%. Okay. If you look at overall debt service to revenue ratio, in terms of, and you relate that to non-oil tax revenue, it's more than 60%. This must be below 24%. Now, if these are the threshold or the targets, the benchmark under the program, then there is no way that we can crawl back from 104% by the end of this year. Don't forget, by the end of this year, our debt to GDP ratio will be more than 100%. And more so, it may not be simply because we are taking more fresh debt. The depreciation of the CD will manifest explicitly in additional debt by the end of this year, if you look at valuation effect or if you market to the market. So if you put all of that together and you look at debt from general government approach, your debt to GDP ratio will be more than 100%.
Okay.
Now, reducing it from 100%, or let's say 104% of GDP to 55% in 6 years. Hello?
Yes.
That is work.
But Prof, really, the concern then for many of us is what this categorical statement from the president then portends for our discussions with the IMF and our possibility of actually getting that staff level agreement by the end of the year.
Look, typically, I will go with the president. He's the president of this country. He will sign off. So if the president of this country says that there will be no haircut, it's like we should take it hook, line, and sinker. Let's go with it.
But why are we not going with it then?
It's because the reality on the ground is at variance with what the president told us yesterday. I'll tell you why. the fund is telling the government to prove your debt sustainability. Now, you see, the government finds itself in an uncomfortable situation. Debt restructuring, which would entail haircut, is really not something government ordinarily would want to go for. I believe it's part of why the negotiation probably has delayed, and everybody is telling us, oh, debt sustainability analysis has not been concluded. Because the offer on the table, which is debt restructuring with considerable haircut, is not something government is comfortable with and want to accept and impose on the system. Now, if you don't want to do that, now if the president says that there will be no haircut, what the president needed to have told us yesterday is what is the alternative. What is it that the government then is going to do in order to reach debt sustainability by 2028 that he has told us? What is the alternative? If you don't demonstrate the alternative that will achieve the same result or a better result as doing debt restructuring, then what you told us yesterday would not ignite a market reaction.
Okay. We'll leave it here
That's
for
what the difference is.
Okay.
Now, hello?
You can conclude on that, Prof.
Yeah. So, and that is why the IMF, together with the government, are more optimistic about reaching a staff-level agreement by the end of this year. A staff-level agreement is not the same as a program.
Okay.
Reaching a staff-level agreement doesn't mean that IMF will start disbursing the dollars to us. No. Now, how did we get to know this? In the case of Zambia, Zambia was in a similar situation like Ghana. They had reached debt unsustainability. So when they agreed a staff-level agreement, it was then required that Zambia would engage with their creditors and reach some kind of agreement with creditors on debt restructuring. It was only after that the program, the staff-level agreement, together with that understanding, went to the IMF Executive Board for approval. That alone took Zambia about 6 to 8 months.
For that to happen.
So it means that Ghana can still reach a staff-level agreement by the end of this year, and if government is not forthright and doesn't come straight, right, and be realistic with investors, then a program will delay beyond 2022 because investors are going to hold out. Because it's about negotiation. It's about restructuring. It's a negotiation. So it doesn't mean that you agree. So now this is what happened. When the broad fiscal framework and the necessary adjustment that government itself will have to do are all discussed and agreed at the staff level, that will then be the basis for engaging creditors. That you know what, I found myself in an unsustainable debt level, and I need to come out of this. We will all be better off if we come out of this. But in order to come out of this, this is what I have done.
Okay.
I also need you to meet me halfway. So the debt sustainability analysis, a staff-level agreement, then becomes the basis for engaging creditors.
Well, we'll definitely engage further on this. Professor Godfred Bopping, we're grateful. We'll have to leave it here for now. But this is a discussion that will continue, and we'll definitely fall back on you for more on this. But we've also been hearing from the minority spokesperson on finance, Dr. Kaisel Latoforsing, also on this. For him, the president goofed in giving that big assurance that there will be no haircuts.
First, I don't know the basis the president made that statement. But if you run the math, it doesn't add up. And I'll be surprised that Ghana will get an IMF program without a haircut. And I can also say on authority that there will be some form of haircut. Clearly, someone is not briefing the president properly, or probably the writing did not come out well. In quote, the president goofed on the IMF program that they will not go for an IMF program. In the end, they went for an IMF program. I can also say, in the same vein, he has made a categorical statement that there will be no haircut. We are watching. In the end, there was going to be another. These things hurt the president's credibility. His handlers must guide him properly, because clearly there will be some form of haircut. He shouldn't have made comment on this haircut matter. He should have allowed it to lie low and probably find a better way to deal with the speculation. But his statement on the debt restructuring alone has caused different form of speculation in the bond market. Today, we've seen some bonds rallying, obviously in the sense that they think there's not going to be domestic bond, some form of haircut either side. But that will mean that anytime there's another announcement that there's going to be a debt restructuring, the situation will get very worse. So please, when a president is making certain categorical statements, you have to first run the math. Don't let the president make statements when you have not run the math.
That's Dr. Kaysola Tuforsin there, but President Akufo-Addo says government will by May 2023 review the standards required for imports into the country, as well as review the management of our foreign exchange reserves in relation to imports of products. In his first address to the nation on the state of the economy, the president said the current rate of importation is a major cause of the depreciating currency.
We're making some progress with the 1D1F, but our current situation requires that we take some more stringent measures to discourage the importation of goods that we can and do produce here. To this end, we will review the standards required for imports into the country. We'll prioritize the imports, as well as review the management of our foreign exchange reserves in relation to imports of products such as rice, poultry, vegetable oil, toothpicks, pasta, fruit juice, bottled water, and ceramic tiles, and others, which with intensified government support and that of the banking sector, can be manufactured and produced in sufficient quantities in Ghana. Government will in May 2023, that is 6 months from now, review the situation. Must, as a matter of urgent national security, reduce our dependence on imported goods and enhance our self-reliance, as demanded by our overarching goal of creating a Ghana beyond aid. Much as we believe in free trade, we must work to ensure that the majority of goods in our shops and marketplaces are those we produce and grow here in Ghana. That is why we have to support our farmers and domestic industries, including those created under the 1D1F initiative, to help reduce our dependence on imports and allow us the opportunity to export more and more of our products and guarantee a stable currency that will present a high level of predictability for citizens and the business community. Exports, not imports, must be our mantra.
Well, let me bring in the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association, Samson and Saki Awingobit. We are grateful. So you heard the President, export, not import, should be our new mantra. I suppose you're putting your house in order to get ready for that to happen.
Well, thank you very much, Emefa, and good evening to your generous viewers. I must say that we at Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana see this to be very ambitious, without planning, without policies being put in place. Of course, if you look at the items that His Excellency the President have made mention, are very unique to us. But however, as we speak, talking about from now to May next year, 2023, we cannot take such a short-term measures to be able to control or to put a leverage on our cities. That cannot happen. I rather see that the President is rather going to add more hardship to the Ghanaian communities. Indeed, 2022 farming season, we all saw how our farmers all over the country cried loud for lack of fertilizer, which the government subsidized for them 50%, I think, in 2021. In 2020, then in 2021, the government subsidized the fertilizer to them, to our farmers, at the rate of 30%. Then in this year, 2022, we saw that the fertilizer subsidy went down to 15%. That is why we stalled. And because government owed many of the fertilizer importers, that's why we saw the fertilizer importers decided to sell directly to the farmers because 15% was woefully adequate. And so we are even in the harvesting season. Yet, what is the cost of our produce? And at what metric ton do we have? Be it rice farmers, be it maize farmers, be it yam and whatever. Yes, it is good for us to preach ambitious, but I strongly believe that the government needs to take it slowly. We need to be serious. We don't just do the talking. Mr. President was addressing the country. He was not on the political platform. And I strongly believe that I was expecting the President to outline what measures, total pragmatic measures that his government has taken into consideration. Is he talking about medium, long term, or short term? If it's the short term, then of course he should better be aware that he's rather putting the national security at threat because there's going to be a total food insecurity in this country.
Okay, but
I can tell you,
what timeline would you recommend as the right timing when it comes to achieving this particular mantra that the President talks about?
Well, thank you very much. That's what I was talking about. We should be talking about 5 years. We should be talking about 6 years. Then the long run, we should be talking about 10 years. Okay. I strongly believe that medium term, well, maybe from 2 to 3 years. I strongly believe that governments rather see to it. In fact, even those who are bringing, talk about frozen food, those who are bringing day-old chicken to feed to our poultry industry, those who are bringing the day-old chicken, if they tell you how much they are paying in duty at the airport, how much they are paying in duty, I strongly believe that I was expecting the President to say, look, all those who are bringing poultry, live day-old chicken to feed our poultry industry will no longer pay duty.
Okay.
Then we know. There's going to be a free feeding for our poultry producers because if you go to the Bono area, even Greater Accra region here, the poultry farmers association are talking about the high cost of feed that they are using to feed their poultry, and that is why we cannot produce at the capacity. I was expecting to see the President tell how much money has been given to how many poultry farmers. We know about Commander Dako that the government gave him some money some time ago. At 1 metric ton can he produce in a day?
Okay.
And so I strongly believe that once the President was supposed to talk about it, he didn't make mention of those things.
Okay.
I.e. the flat rate for business community, i.e. at the port, which is Deputy Minister of Trade announced to us, i.e. talking about reduction of petroleum products so that transportation will come down for food stuff. Even product being produced within Ghana here is even much more costly. Cost of borrowing and the cost of utility tariff for even industries, AGI and their membership knows very well that it is not about import that is destroying their market, but as a result of utility tariff and cost of borrowing is key. Okay. I did not see the President talking about that.
Okay, Mr. Awingobit, we'll have to leave it here for now. We're grateful for your time. That's Samson Asaki. Awingobit speaks for the Importers and Exporters Association on the President's mantra that by May 2023, we ought to be exporting more rather than importing. That, he says, should be our mantra. But we can hear some of your views and reactions to the President's address. Some residents in the Ashanti region, the voting powerhouse of the ruling New Patriotic Party, some of them have expressed discontentment over the President's address on the economy. However, some residents of Kumasi who spoke to Love FM's Emmanuel Brightquick, who have also regarded his address as empty one that lacks pragmatic steps to salvage the sinking economy. We can hear some of them.
Very honest, no, he didn't. Why would I say so? So, what we're expecting from Nanado's speech was a speech of reassurance. Ghanaians were expecting him to give us a speech that would make us feel happier. Russia-Ukraine war, COVID, these are conversations we've heard everywhere. We hear it every single day happening. Now the question is, what are we supposed to see? You still get us hearing blames of we are not paying taxes. Then the question is, what happened to e-levy? You hear him telling us about inflation rates. What exactly are the kind of differences we're expecting to see? We didn't get any of that from the speech yesterday. For me, I felt like it was a below-par speech for the President, and it's not something we were supposed to see. Why would I say such a thing? Notice fully well that after the speech, it didn't calm anybody down. People are angry this morning. When I even entered the Trotsky to Tech Junction, everybody in the car was angry. The only big thing you hear is Sikam Pedede. So what do you get from the Sikam Pedede? Is it that we are the ones making the noise, or the money is the one making the noise? We think we need more clarity, because most of the things are like, they are just there. We are not getting the kind of impact we have to have.
So why are there? But I fail. Nobody, how many years in it? 6 and kind of 2 years. I fail mom. And I'm about to say, And I besham so san ka shama atrema o shama atrema.
The president's address did not go down well. If he knew these measures earlier, he would have implemented them, but not now, when he is about leaving office. Even his comments about money disliking noise was unhealthy.
Casina twas about 40 something, and you scan on much and it's campaign design. You get this campaign that which has any say. Scamped then say, will you show off? Membuana, yes, and Mrs. Sanka way, or Chaka way, and the VAT near the assistance we scamped it.
Yet to the morning, and no my boy, why I say a gene, ye Nippano or mining any Nippanin now, and no money too much. No man paying so be and 1.2. I thought dear 50 cities, 5 million.
We as a people must be considerate about the profit margins we want to make. We are in all this together. Even though the president is putting in place some measures, it can't restore the economy.
Especially, maybe a Juma. I'm not being a Juma, near Joe tax 2 million krana, and because of so argumentino. But yet, yet to I count. Yes, a Juma, or more than mere Juma.
Oh, if we saw to me and Sabe Boagana, if you say, your Cafuel market all can once MCC last time in the next 3 days going up there with Cocotofu, I mean, you should diesel car. We talk for 18.99 pesos in Ghana as a per liter. Now, if we say the consumer of it, maybe I'm one more here.
I think what he is rolling out would help, especially with the fuel. Some of us aren't breaking even. So if he is in talks with international fuel marketers for affordable ones, then it should help.
Around 3:30. Now, new time I was me pon, but my name is me fu na ya me consume the day no. Na boro sa ma fu on the side, but me just come nya ya na enso. Ma me ye dey e pon kofi. Ti so bet man ya filling station bi ona so bet ma prices na akofom kakra na ye enso ye ho ba hare ya nka me fi say ke bebo ye nsema ye dey ama na.
Meanwhile, government is confident the measures outlined by the president will turn around the fortunes of the economy. We can hear from Information Minister Kojo Ponkruma.
The president earlier had met the governor, the Association of Bankers, the Association of Forex Bureaus, and they had briefed him, particularly the governor had briefed him on measures to ensure that there was adequacy of Forex for legitimate purposes in the banking halls and at the Forex Bureau. So you notice that as part of his measures, he talks about fresh inflows of dollars to provide liquidity to the foreign exchange market. So they gave him those assurances of the adequacy for those who need it for official purposes. And even for those legitimate official purposes, government is making efforts to deprioritize the importation of items that we can produce here in Ghana very easily. And then for those who are involved more in buying dollar and putting it down, or in hoarding or in speculating, efforts at discouraging that. So that is the two-way approach aimed at ensuring that there's adequacy for those who need it.
Well, we heard him talk about dollar inflows going forward, but where exactly it's coming from, if you were to tell us?
Well, I think we have announced that already, 750 earlier in the year, and another about 1.3, which has started coming in. That comes to a total of about 2 billion.
Well, the issue about petroleum products also, we know that it continues to rise on the market, and there's a prediction that a litre could hit 20 cedis by mid-November. He announced also that he's working in to bring cheap products to help alleviate the suffering of the people. But give us more details about this and how it will work in a deregulated sector that we operate currently.
Emefa, the cost of living challenge we are having is driven by fuel pricing as a first point. The fuel pricing then translates into higher food and transportation costs. And once food and transportation costs go up, you have the cost of general goods and services also beginning to pick up. Then you have a fourth layer of people beginning to respond by also then pricing higher because everything else is going higher because they also consume everything else. So if you want to tackle the cost of living, one of the things that you need to tackle at the root is the frequent escalation in fuel prices. The deregulated market we have here, where BDCs import from the big companies, on the high seas or from the refineries, wherever, and bring them in, is contributing to the quickened escalation of fuel prices.
That's Information Minister Kojo Ponkrumah, and that discussion continues on PM Express with Evans Mensah at 9. You want to stay here on the Joy News channel for more of it. But still to come here on Joy News Prime, your rent is 600 cedis a month, but your monthly allowance is 559 cedis, not forgetting transportation, food, water and electricity. The question is, how do you survive? We'll hear from some national service personnel.
Concerning the allowance, we plead that maybe there should be an increment.
Things are getting more pricey. Even just getting here, the transportation was quite a lot as compared to previously. So I think an increment would be good.
Welcome back. This is Joy News Prime, and onto some other stories now. Your rent is 600 cedis a month, but your monthly allowance is 559 cedis. Not forgetting transportation, food, water, and electricity. Question is, how do you survive? This is the plight of national service persons in this country, as many of them are posted out of their home regions. Many of them live on borrowed funds as their means of survival. They are thus calling for an upward adjustment of their allowances. Executive Director of the National Service Scheme, Osei Beintri, says government is working to cushion these service personnel with a cost of living allowance.
Like Oliver Twist, Oliver always asks for more. So if you ask me, Oliver is always asking, and we are hopeful that the president will do something about them. Recently, maybe you have heard, because you are in the media space, that the president gave COLA to support the workers. And once the president has started, it also comes to their turn. And anywhere I go, my advice has been very short, that one, they should go there and be a good ambassadors. Two, they should go there, then be disciplined and abide by the principles of all the user agencies. Every user agency has gotten their code of ethics. And my advice to them is that they should be obedient. They should go there, prepare themselves, that it is through the user agency support that is going to sharpen them for them to become employable.
Well, Prince Owusu himself, a service person, spoke to some of his colleagues on it.
In my opinion, the online procedure has been good so far, but then my only concern is coming to sit here because I was allocated 11 o'clock. I came pretty later than that, but then when I came to meet people from 10:30 already here, and I'm yet to be attended to. So I think that's my concern now. I'm wondering how I'm going to get home and prepare for tomorrow. Since we are starting tomorrow, we have to go to work early and all that.
The process will be fast, but unfortunately, my expectation wasn't met. I've been around here 9, and now it seems the people, those 10 is around 11 or so. So I'm still in the queue. I don't know when it will be my time. So I think they should speed up, because some of us, we stay far, and we see now the system is so hard, so traveling issue has also become, so we see these trucks and other guys, so if the time is late, they want to even increase the price. So, bro, it's not easy, but all the same, we trust the process that maybe our time will come. And also concerning the allowance, we plead that maybe there should be an increment, because you see now things are really increasing, because taxation and other stuff, so if the allowance still remain the same, you see, so they should increase for us. Thank you.
I mean, things are getting more pricey. Even just getting here, the transportation was quite a lot as compared to previously. So I think an increment would be good.
Well, that's the situation with service persons. Now, the rising cost of flour and cooking oil is taking a heavy toll on traders in the bakery and fries business. Prices of beef loaf, popularly known as buffroot, and fried yam are increasing at a major production hub in the Ashanti region. Traders at Enria in Kwanta say they risk losing their businesses if prices are not increased to correspond to a hike in production ingredients. Nanaya Ojima visited the area and has filed this report.
Buffroot is made of flour, sugar and other ingredients, which is fried in hot oil. under high temperature. The tasty delicacy is often taken with a beverage in the morning, but some prefer taking it as snack in the afternoon. The business is the mainstay of the Anyuan Kwanta economy. Travelers make a stop at the busy junction to have a taste of the brown balls.
This business was in existence before we were born.
Prices of vegetable oil almost doubled in the past few days, currently selling at 1,000 cedis a gallon from a little below 600 cedis. With inflation hovering at 37.2% in September, food prices have soared. For about a week, the busy stop at Anyuan Kwanta has lost its main feature, buff-root hawking. Local stoves, which are production units at the time of our visit, were desolate. According to traders, the hike in price of cooking oil pushed them out of the business.
It's 1,000 and see a check here. What for to cry? Who no money now? No 1,000. Says I want the Franco big 1,000. Yes, I buy
a gallon of oil is now sold at 1,000 Ghana cedis, but the ingredients for buff-root is less than 1,000 cedis. So we realized we had to put a halt to making buff-root.
For this reason, the traders have resolved to hike prices from 3 to 5 cedis, with the smallest balls going for 3 cedis. They are uncertain about survival of the business.
You have 5 cedis and 3 cedis. They are traveling. They say 8. What's it? 2 cedis and 3 cedis.
From today, the 3 cedi buff-root will be sold at 5 Ghana cedis, while we sell the 2 cedi buff-root at 3 Ghana cedis.
Meanwhile, the yam frying business, which is an alternative for many here, is also in recession. The traders plan to increase the prices to 5 cedis for 3 pieces. Adjoa Ampoma is leader.
By the cost of Casissa, someone, I want to pray so. I did 5 million, I could do 10 million. You did 1 year. You can see a channel, me and 5 cedi. You can me and 5 cedi. 1 cedi.
Unlike the price of oil, the yam prices are stable, so we have decided to sell 3 pieces of yam at 5 Ghana cedis.
It is unclear how the market will respond to the increment. There are concerns the Anyuan Kwanta buff-root may go into extinction if the cedi depreciation, which is said to be the cause of the price hikes, remain unchecked. For Joy News, Nana Yaojima, Anyuan Kwanta.
Now let me take you to Parliament, where Speaker Alban Bagbing has questioned the quality of work done by the Privileges Committee at arriving the decision that MP for Dom Kwabenya Sarah Joasafo's seat be declared vacant. The Speaker mounted a strong defense of his decision to refer the committee's report on absentee MPs to the entire House for a vote. In his ruling that has been criticized by NPP MPs, the Speaker said a decision on representation is such a crucial one that cannot be left to only a few persons. Speaking to journalists, the Speaker said his ruling was apt and he was not satisfied with the work of the committee in its entirety.
If you've had access to read the report, you understand the basis of my ruling. You know, representation is so key to democratic governance, to be left to the subjective decision of any individual or group of people. It must be the whole. And that report, after reading that report, I went behind the report to do investigation as to what happened at the committee meetings. And I'm not satisfied with what happened there. There's no way that this can go without the whole House being given the opportunity to debate it. The heavens can come down, but that one, the whole House will have to debate it and come out with the decision. It's not the Speaker that has to declare the vacation of the seat. Okay? When they say something is automatic, it is somebody that must make it automatic. To start with, the attention must be drawn that the person has been absent for more than 15 sittings. I should say for 15 sittings. 15 or more sittings. There must be some search to know that the Speaker has not given a written permission. These are questions of facts. And that cannot be established just by an individual. The Speaker every day gives permissions. And there's no way that with this heavy load on me, I'll be able to say that, oh, I didn't give this one permission, or I gave this one 10, I gave this 20. No. You must get a team to do a research, to survey, get all the permissions, and go through. Don't forget, they are human beings, and they can be subjected to influences. Even that, I'm still investigating it. And I got reports from civil society organizations that are focused on Parliament. And they've gone to the extent of using the votes and proceedings, which is the basis for attendance. Don't forget that the Constitution doesn't say attendance to plenary session. It says attendance to Parliament. And Parliament is not only about plenary. And that is where I have a problem with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Well, Speaker Bagby also gave the clearest indication that the House will pass the controversial Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. The bill, popularly referred to as the anti-gay bill, has been criticized by some activists as one that will infringe on the human rights of such persons. But the Speaker says gay rights are no human rights.
It's sexual rights and human values bill that is being handled by the committee. Definitely, we'll pass it before the next election. We'll pass it. That bill will go through. Yes. You see, when we talk about human rights, we are talking about things that will add value to the human being by way of creating opportunities, of creating an equal playing ground, of giving some privileges and rights to each and every one of us, of removing all the restrictions and hurdles to make you more freer. That's what we call human rights. Anything negating from that cannot be a right. Cannot. And don't forget that rights go with responsibilities.
Well, he also talks about the withdrawal of his security detail, describing it as hypocritical. And on that note, we end today's edition of Joy News Prime. Also on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. We've been live on myjoyonline.com, on Facebook, and there's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Please stay. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company.